Eli adjusted his space helmet for the 100th time. Though the visor was already secure, he could feel his heart beating faster than normal. After years of training as an interstellar engineer, he had imagined countless missions, but nothing had prepared him for this. He was not just visiting another planet, he was entering the court of Queen Erilyn, ruler of the Letheri, a highly advanced alien civilization. The shuttle door hissed open, and the first thing Eli noticed was the color. The sky above the capital city glowed in a soft violet hue, streaked with hints of gold. The air shimmered as if the sunlight itself were dancing on invisible threads. He stepped onto the smooth surface of the landing platform, careful not to stumble. The Letheri city sprawled before him like a living crystal, with towers curving elegantly toward the sky and bridges that seemed to float in midair. "Welcome, human," said a voice that sounded like music itself. Eli turned to see a Lethari official, tall and elegant with translucent skin that reflected the light in faint patterns. "I am Varian, your guide. The Queen awaits you." Eli bowed respectfully, trying to hide the awe in his expression. Humans were considered fragile here. His species was admired for ingenuity but never fully trusted in Letheri courts. One wrong move, one mistake, and the delicate balance of interstellar diplomacy could collapse. Varian led him through corridors that shimmered like liquid glass, their walls glowing softly with alien symbols. Eli noticed subtle details in the architecture, tiny mechanisms that seemed alive, humming with energy, and delicate filaments that pulsed gently as he walked past. It was unlike any technology he had ever seen. Every element seemed to combine beauty and function seamlessly. Finally, they entered the throne room. The space was vast yet intimate. At its center sat Queen Erilyn on a throne that seemed carved from light itself. She was tall, more graceful than any human could hope to be, with eyes that glimmered like polished gems. On her head rested the crown of energy, a complex lattice of glowing crystals and fine metallic threads. It shimmered softly, almost like it was alive. "Human Eli." Erilyn's voice was gentle but commanded attention. "I have heard of your skills. You will repair my crown," Eli swallowed. This was no ordinary crown. From what he had studied, it was a delicate fusion of alien engineering and rare crystals, capable of amplifying Erilyn's ability to control the energy of her planet. One wrong touch and he could damage it, or worse, harm the Queen. "I will do my best, Your Majesty," Eli said, stepping forward carefully. "Good. You will have only the tools you need, nothing more. Respect its structure, or there will be consequences," she said, her gaze steady. Eli noticed that her eyes were studying him as if she could see not just his skills but his thoughts. Varian handed him a small case filled with delicate instruments. Each tool was made of a material he had never seen, soft and strong at the same time. Eli opened it slowly, almost reverently. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. He knelt beside the throne, examining the crown. It was more intricate than any schematic or holographic image could ever show. Tiny threads of glowing energy intertwined with crystal nodes, forming a lattice that seemed both organic and mechanical. Eli traced a finger along one filament, careful not to touch it directly. The energy responded subtly, pulsing gently under his careful observation. As he worked, he realized that the crown was not just a device, it was an extension of Erilyn herself. Each pulse of light, each vibration of energy seemed to echo her mood and intention. A human engineer might never fully understand it, but he had to try. Hours passed, yet Eli did not notice. He was focused entirely on the crown, adjusting a misaligned filament, tightening a tiny crystal node, and stabilizing the energy flow. Every movement required patience and precision. One slip could ruin everything. "Eli," Erilyn said softly, her voice breaking through his concentration. "You have a careful hand." He looked up and saw her observing him with quiet intensity. There was something in her gaze that made his chest tighten, a warmth he did not expect. Humans had never interacted with Lethari rulers this closely. Their culture was reserved, distant, yet here she was, watching him with an expression that seemed almost curious. "I am trained for delicate work, Your Majesty," Eli replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Inside, however, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had repaired complex systems on starships, but nothing compared to this. Erilyn's lips curved slightly, almost a smile. "Perhaps your training is more than mechanical," she said. "Perhaps humans are different," Eli's mind raced. He knew humans were considered fragile, but they were also clever, adaptable, and capable of empathy, qualities rare among the Lithari. Could she be noticing that? Was she comparing him to her own people? He dared not assume. Suddenly, a small flicker of instability appeared in the crown. Eli's heart leapt. He carefully adjusted the crystal lattice, channeling the energy flow back into alignment. The crown's glow stabilized, brighter and steadier than before. Arelyn leaned slightly forward. Impressive. You have improved its function. Few could do this. Eli felt a surge of pride. He was a human in a world of beings far superior in strength, intelligence, and longevity. But here his mind and hands had made a real difference. He realized with a quiet thrill that humans were capable of things even the Lithari could not anticipate. For a brief moment, their eyes met. It was not just engineer and queen looking at each other. It was two beings aware of one another, sharing an unspoken understanding. Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. There was something unearthly in her gaze, a mixture of curiosity, admiration, and something else he could not name. Varian cleared his throat softly, breaking the moment. The queen must rest soon. Do not overextend yourself, human. Eli nodded and returned to the crown. He continued working, but his mind kept drifting back to that look. He realized that this mission was no longer just about repairing a device. It was about connection. And he was beginning to understand that his skills, his humanity, might mean more here than he had ever imagined. Hours turned into what felt like minutes. Eli's fingers moved carefully, guided by intuition as much as knowledge. The crown responded to his touch almost as if it recognized his careful hands. He adjusted one final filament and the energy lattice hummed with perfect harmony. The glow was steady, and a faint warmth spread through the room. Arelyn stood slowly, her presence filling the chamber. She approached Eli and observed his work. You have done well, human. The crown is restored. Her voice carried a softness that made Eli's heart skip. It is my honor, Your Majesty, Eli said, standing and bowing slightly. He realized that for the first time in his life he felt truly seen, not just as a human, not just as an engineer, but as an individual. Arelyn studied him for a long moment, her eyes reflecting the crown's glow. Then quietly, she said something that made Eli's stomach twist with surprise and curiosity. Do you understand what this crown represents, human? Eli nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. It represents leadership, responsibility, and the connection between you and your people. She smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly. Yes, and now perhaps it represents something more, something I have not felt in a long time. Eli felt a spark of something he could not yet name. Whatever it was, it promised that this mission would be far more than technical work. It was the beginning of something extraordinary, an encounter that could bridge worlds, hearts, and understanding. As he left the throne room that evening, Eli could not shake the feeling that the night sky, painted in violet and gold, was watching him back. For the first time, he understood that humans were capable of more than survival. They could inspire, connect, and even change the course of worlds. And somewhere deep in that realization, he felt the faint, thrilling pull of destiny, one that would soon bring him face to face with questions of loyalty, courage, and perhaps even love. The next morning, the palace hummed with a quiet energy, a rhythm of life that Eli could almost feel in his chest. The corridors, filled with shimmering lights and subtle vibrations, seemed alive in a way he could not explain. He adjusted his uniform and took a deep breath, preparing for another day in the Queen's presence. Repairing the crown had been only the beginning. Now he was invited to observe the palace's operations and learn the delicate balance of Lithari leadership. Varian led him through a hall lined with crystalline panels. Each panel displayed information in patterns of glowing symbols and colors. Eli watched as Lithari aides adjusted and interpreted them with precision. Everything here is interconnected, Varian explained. The Queen's crown channels energy to maintain the city's harmony. It is more than a symbol. It is a living system. And you, human, have helped stabilize it. Eli nodded, feeling pride and humility at the same time. Humans were fragile, yes, but fragile did not mean weak. Their adaptability, their creativity, and their courage often allowed them to solve problems even the most advanced civilizations could not anticipate. He knew this truth about his species, and he was beginning to realize that Arelyn had noticed it too. When they reached the throne room, Eli found Arelyn waiting. She stood beside the crown, her posture elegant and commanding, yet there was an unmistakable softness in her expression. "You have done well," she said, her voice low and calm. "The crown is stable, but it is only part of what I need you to understand. Its power is linked to my people, to the city, to my choices. To repair it was not merely technical work. It required understanding." Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. He had repaired countless machines, but he had never been told that his work required understanding of something so personal. He realized that Erlen's crown was not just energy and crystals. It reflected her essence, her responsibility, and her connection to her people. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said carefully. "I will do my best to learn." Erlen studied him for a long moment, then tilted her head slightly. "You are different from my advisors," she said. "They see patterns, systems, probabilities. You see possibilities, and sometimes possibilities are what we need most." Eli felt his heart lift. This was more than praise. It was recognition. In a world where humans were often seen as weak or naive, she had noticed something essential about him. It was not strength or longevity that mattered here. It was courage, empathy, and adaptability. Humans could offer what even the Lithari could not. As the morning passed, Eli walked beside Erlen through the palace gardens. The plants were like nothing he had seen on Earth or in any human colony. Some glowed faintly, their leaves pulsing in time with a soft rhythm. Others floated gently above the soil, suspended by invisible energy. Erlen moved among them with effortless grace, her hand brushing over a flowering vine without disturbing it. "You have an unusual gift, human," she said softly. "You touch things and see not just what they are, but what they could be. Most Lithari cannot do this." Eli smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "We humans learn to adapt. We survive by seeing possibilities." She looked at him, her eyes catching the soft glow of the floating plants. "And yet you remain calm in a place that is alien, even dangerous, that is rare." For a moment, Eli wondered if she could sense more than just his actions. Could she feel his thoughts, his uncertainties, his hopes? He shook the thought away and focused on the path ahead. But the feeling lingered, a quiet tension in the space between them. That evening, Eli was allowed to examine the crown once more. He worked with meticulous care, adjusting small filaments and observing how the energy flowed through the crystalline lattice. The crown responded to his touch, pulses synchronizing with his movements. It was as if it recognized his careful hands. Erlen stood nearby, watching him. "You have brought a change," she said quietly. "Not only to the crown, but to me." Eli froze, his fingers hovering above a delicate filament. He dared not ask what she meant, yet he could not ignore the feeling that passed between them. Her gaze held something he had never experienced: curiosity, admiration, and perhaps something more personal. I only did my work," he said carefully, not daring to step beyond the bounds of respect. "Work is not merely effort," she replied. "It is intention, understanding, and care. You possess all three." Eli felt a warmth spread through his chest. Humans were often underestimated, yet here he was, recognized not just for skill but for heart. The thought gave him courage, though he could not yet name the feeling that fluttered in his stomach. As night fell, the palace was bathed in a soft violet light from the city below. Eli walked along a balcony beside Erlen, the city's glow reflecting in her eyes. For the first time he felt the weight of distance between worlds. She was Lithari, immortal in many ways, and he was human, brief and fragile. Yet in that moment it felt as though the gap was smaller than he had imagined. "You do not fear this place," Erlen said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. "I am careful," Eli replied, "but I do not fear. I have learned that fear is not the only way to survive. Curiosity, courage, and care matter too." She smiled faintly, a smile that made his heart skip a beat. "Yes, and that is why I asked you to repair the crown. Not only because your hands are steady, but because your mind sees what others overlook." Eli was silent for a moment, considering her words. To be noticed, truly noticed by a being so powerful and alien was overwhelming, and yet he felt a strange connection, a pull that he could not explain. As they returned to the throne room, a minor disturbance occurred in the crown's energy. Eli instinctively reached out, adjusting a filament, and the pulse stabilized. Erlen watched him closely, her gaze softer now, filled with a quiet intensity. "You have done more than repair it," she said. "You have improved it." Eli felt a swell of pride. Humans were often underestimated, but here, in a world of beings far more advanced, his ingenuity had made a difference. It was a reminder that even a fragile species could shape outcomes in meaningful ways. For a long moment, neither spoke. Their eyes met, and Eli felt the faintest flicker of something impossible to name. Was it trust? Admiration? Or something deeper, something personal? He could not tell, and yet the feeling was undeniable. Finally, Erilyn spoke, her voice quiet and intimate. "You are unlike any human I have ever known. Perhaps unlike any being I have ever known." Eli's heart raced. He wanted to ask what she meant, but he knew better than to speak out of turn. Instead, he nodded, allowing the silence to stretch between them, a space that felt alive with possibility. As he retired to his quarters later, Eli reflected on the day. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were also capable of connection, empathy, and understanding. These qualities, he realized, could bridge worlds, hearts, and even lifetimes. And somehow, in the presence of Queen Erilyn, he felt those qualities being recognized, acknowledged, and perhaps even reciprocated. He knew that the days ahead would test him in ways he had never imagined. Politics, duty, and the delicate balance of the crown would demand every ounce of skill he possessed. Yet he also sensed that something extraordinary was beginning, a connection that went beyond duty, beyond technology, and perhaps even beyond the limits of human understanding. Eli fell asleep that night with a quiet hope in his heart. He had come to this distant world as an engineer, a human in a realm of advanced beings, yet he was beginning to understand that humanity could matter in ways even the Lithari could not fully anticipate. And in that realization, he felt the faintest thrill of destiny, a pull toward something beyond the known, beyond the possible, and perhaps toward something that could change both their worlds forever. The morning sun cast a soft violet glow across the palace. Eli stood in the throne room, his hands steady, though his mind felt a quiet tension he could not shake. Today, he would continue his work on the crown, but he sensed that something deeper awaited him, something he could neither predict nor control. Erilyn entered silently, her presence commanding yet graceful. Her eyes caught his immediately, as if she had been waiting for him to arrive. She wore a robe of shifting colors, shimmering like liquid crystal. The crown atop her head pulsed gently, responding to the subtle movements of her body. "Good morning, human," she said softly. "Today we continue, but there is more than mechanics to attend to. The crown is stable, but it reflects more than energy. It reflects the bond between those who guide and those who follow, and now it seems to reflect something new." Eli's fingers itched to reach out and adjust the delicate filaments. He had repaired, stabilized, and enhanced the crown, but never had he felt such a connection to a machine, or to the being who wore it. "I will do my best, Your Majesty," he said, kneeling beside the throne. "I will respect its structure and its purpose." Erilyn inclined her head slightly, observing him. "You already do. You see not only what is broken, but what can be improved. That is rare, even among humans." As Eli worked, a flicker of instability appeared in one of the crown's nodes. He reached out carefully, adjusting it with precise fingers. The energy responded to his touch, pulsing gently and stabilizing under his careful guidance. The crown seemed to breathe with life, as if it were aware of his intent. Erilyn leaned closer, her gaze fixed on his hands. "You have brought balance, human. Not just to the crown, but to me." Eli froze, his hands hovering above the delicate structure. Her words were quiet, but they carried a weight that made his heart race. He had repaired countless devices, yet no praise had ever touched him like this. Her acknowledgement was more than approval. It was recognition of something personal, something unseen. "I only do my work," he said, his voice careful, controlled, yet unsteady inside. "Work is not merely effort," she replied. "It is intention, care, and understanding. You possess all three, human, and that is extraordinary." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken tension. Eli realized that he had been drawn to her not just as a queen or as an alien ruler, but as a being of depth and complexity. He felt an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, a spark of connection that was both thrilling and frightening. As he adjusted a final filament, the crown pulsed brighter, and a soft hum filled the room. The energy seemed to resonate with their combined presence, echoing the bond forming in silence. Erilyn's gaze held him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the crown. She moved closer, her hand brushing against his as she adjusted a filament herself. The contact was brief, but it sent a shiver down Eli's spine. He dared not speak, yet he could feel the air between them charged with something beyond words. Then, in a voice so soft that it seemed to float in the room, Arelyn whispered, "Do you love me, human?" Eli's fingers froze mid-motion. His heart skipped a beat. He stared at her, unable to comprehend at first. The question was simple, yet it carried the weight of centuries of alien experience, wisdom, and expectation. Yet it was intimate, personal, and entirely unexpected. He began, then stopped. Words failed him. He knew that speaking could be dangerous, that expressing human emotions in the presence of a being so powerful could have consequences beyond his understanding. But the silence between them was filled with meaning, and he could not ignore it. Arelyn tilted her head slightly, her eyes never leaving his. "You need not speak immediately. I am not asking for ceremony or obligation. I am asking for truth." Eli took a deep breath. Humans were often underestimated because of their fragility, yet they were capable of courage and honesty that even advanced civilizations sometimes lacked. He realized that his answer, however small, could be a bridge between human and Lethari, between duty and heart. "I care for you, Your Majesty," he said finally, his voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. "More than I can explain. I admire you. I respect you. And I feel something I do not fully understand." Arelyn's eyes softened, a subtle, almost imperceptible smile on her lips. "That is enough for now. Understanding will come with time." The air between them felt charged yet gentle, like the quiet hum of the crown itself. Eli realized that humans, despite their fragility, could offer qualities that Lethari valued deeply: empathy, courage, and the ability to connect beyond intellect. In that moment, he felt the weight of his species' potential, not just in survival, but in bridging worlds, hearts, and understanding. They continued their work together side by side, adjusting the crown's filaments and observing the energy flow. The subtle closeness was unlike anything Eli had experienced before. He felt the warmth of her presence, the careful observation of her gaze, and the unspoken acknowledgement that he was more than a human engineer here. He was a participant in something extraordinary. Hours passed, yet neither seemed to notice. The world outside the throne room faded, leaving only the hum of energy, the shimmer of crystal, and the quiet rhythm of two beings discovering a connection. Finally, the crown stabilized completely, glowing with a brilliance that seemed almost alive. Eli stepped back, exhausted but exhilarated. Arelyn observed him with a look that made his heart pound, not as a queen to a subject, but as one being to another. "You have done more than repair it," she said softly. "You have enhanced it, and in doing so you have shown me something I have not felt in a long time." Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. His humanity, fragile as it was, had made a real difference here. Not only had he restored the crown, but he had also brought a new perspective, a new energy, into a world that often valued only longevity, strength, and calculation. He realized that this was the essence of humans, the ability to offer courage, adaptability, and empathy in ways even the most advanced beings sometimes overlooked. And Arelyn had seen it, acknowledged it, and responded to it. As they stood together, the crown humming softly between them, Eli understood that the question she had asked, the whisper, was not merely about love in the human sense. It was about trust, connection, and the recognition that even the smallest being could matter profoundly. Arelyn tilted her head, her gaze softer now, filled with quiet intensity. "Perhaps humans are capable of more than I realized," she said. "And perhaps I am capable of feeling more than I allowed myself to believe." Eli swallowed, feeling the weight and beauty of her words. For the first time, he sensed that his presence here was not just a duty, not just a mission. It was the beginning of something extraordinary. A connection between species, between worlds, and between hearts. That evening, as Eli left the throne room, he felt a strange mix of exhilaration and unease. The whisper had changed everything. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were capable of courage, of heart, and of connection that could transcend even the vast differences between species. He walked along the palace balcony, the violet sky stretching endlessly above, the city below glowing with soft gold and purple lights. He thought of Erilyn, of her question, and of the unspoken bond forming between them. The world was vast and full of danger, but he felt for the first time that humans could truly matter here, not just as visitors but as partners, as allies, as something more. Eli understood that the days ahead would test him. The palace, the crown, and Erilyn's world were full of complexities he had yet to comprehend. Politics, expectations, and the delicate balance of power would demand his skill, his courage, and perhaps even his heart. Yet he also knew that the whisper had opened a door to trust, to understanding, and perhaps even to something that could change both their lives forever. As he looked up at the stars, he realized that humanity's potential was not measured in strength or longevity, but in the ability to connect, to inspire, and to act with courage and care. And for the first time, he felt that his place in the universe was not merely as a human observer, but as a participant in something extraordinary, a bond that could bridge worlds, hearts, and destinies. And somewhere deep in his chest, a quiet hope began to bloom, a hope that perhaps, in this distant palace amid alien beauty and strange energy, he could find not only purpose but connection, and perhaps, just perhaps, love. The palace was quieter than usual that morning, but Eli sensed an undercurrent of tension in the air. News had spread quietly among the Lithari nobles about the unusual closeness between Queen Erilyn and the human engineer. Some of them whispered in corridors, exchanging worried glances. To outsiders, humans were fragile, unpredictable, and often misunderstood. Eli knew that even a minor mistake could spark suspicion, yet he felt a strange determination, an inner resolve that humans often found when faced with challenges that seemed impossible. Varian led him to the throne room, his expression unreadable. "The council wishes to see the crown," he said. "They will inspect it and observe its stability. Be cautious, human. Not everyone will welcome your presence." Eli nodded, keeping his expression neutral. This was not just about technical skill anymore. It was about diplomacy, judgment, and courage, the qualities humans possessed but which many underestimated. He reminded himself that his strength lay not in raw power, but in intelligence, care, and adaptability. Erilyn greeted him with a quiet smile. "The council will arrive soon. I trust your hands, human, but their minds may challenge more than your skill." "I understand, Your Majesty," Eli replied. He had faced many tests in his life, but this one felt different. It was not just about engineering. It was about trust, respect, and proving that a human could contribute meaningfully in a world where humans were outsiders. The council arrived shortly thereafter, a group of tall, regal Lithari with eyes like polished gemstones. Their expressions were sharp and their movements precise. They circled the throne, observing the crown with scrutiny. Eli knelt beside the queen, adjusting the delicate filaments as the energy pulsed gently. "This crown has been repaired," one counselor said, voice like smooth crystal, "by a human. Are we to trust the stability of such a device to one so fragile?" Eli felt a flicker of doubt, but he remembered the lessons he had learned in his own world. Humans might be fragile in body, but they were resilient in mind and heart. He carefully explained the adjustments he had made, showing how the energy nodes were now more stable, how the filaments allowed better flow, and how minor fluctuations would now be automatically balanced. The counselors murmured among themselves, but some eyes betrayed surprise. Even beings as advanced as the Lithari could not ignore logic and effectiveness. Eli had demonstrated something humans often did best: ingenuity in the face of challenge. Erilyn observed silently, her presence calm and commanding. Then unexpectedly a subtle disturbance appeared in the crown's energy. One node flickered dangerously and the council gasped. Eli acted immediately. He reached out, his fingers moving with careful precision, stabilizing the node with a combination of human intuition and knowledge of alien engineering. The pulse steadied, and the crown glowed more steadily than before. The room was silent for a moment. Then slowly one counselor inclined his head in acknowledgement. "This human has proven himself capable." Eli exhaled quietly, feeling relief and pride. Humans were often underestimated, yet here, his species' ingenuity and adaptability had made a tangible difference. The council's approval was more than politics. It was recognition that humans could contribute meaningfully even in alien systems that seemed beyond reach. After the council departed, Erlen approached him, her gaze filled with quiet intensity. "You have done more than repair the crown," she said softly. "You have proven that humans are capable of more than I realized. Your courage, care, and insight, they are rare." Eli bowed slightly, feeling warmth in his chest. "It is an honor, Your Majesty. Humans may be fragile, but we have our strengths. We survive through adaptability, courage, and care." Erlen's eyes softened. "And perhaps that is why I asked you the question the other day. Not just about love, but about trust. You have shown me that humans can be trusted in ways even the most advanced beings sometimes cannot." Eli felt a shiver of both pride and humility. The whisper had changed everything. It was no longer merely a personal question. It was a test of humanity itself, and he had passed. Days passed, and Eli continued to work alongside Erlen. Their bond grew, quiet but undeniable. He observed her decisions, her interactions with the council, and the subtle ways she balanced power and responsibility. He saw moments of doubt in her eyes, moments when the weight of leadership pressed heavily on her shoulders. And he realized that humans, in their own way, could offer insight and perspective that even the most advanced beings could overlook. One evening, while reviewing the crown's energy flow, Eli noticed a sudden anomaly, a minor fluctuation that, if left unchecked, could destabilize the entire system. He worked quickly, analyzing the patterns, adjusting the flow, and rerouting energy channels. The crown responded to his interventions, stabilizing once more. Erlen watched him closely. "Your hands move with precision, human," she said. "But your mind anticipates what might go wrong. That is what makes you extraordinary." Eli felt a quiet pride. Humans were often valued for their ability to fix things, but here, he realized their greatest strength was foresight, the ability to adapt, anticipate, and respond with creativity. It was something that no machine, no matter how advanced, could replace. As he worked, he noticed a subtle shift in Erlen's demeanor. She was calmer, more confident. He realized that his presence, his understanding, and his care were having an effect not only on the crown but on her as well. Humans might be fragile, but they could inspire trust, courage, and hope. Later that night, Eli and Erlen walked through the palace gardens. The plants glowed softly, their leaves pulsing with gentle energy. The air was fragrant with scents that seemed both alien and comforting. "You have changed much in a short time, human," Erlen said softly. "Not only the crown, but the way my people view you, and perhaps even the way I view them." Eli smiled faintly. "I only do what I can. Humans are fragile, yes, but we can adapt. We can learn. And sometimes, we can make a difference where others cannot." Erlen stopped and turned to him. Her eyes held a quiet intensity, the same intensity he had felt when she had whispered her question. "You have shown me courage and understanding. And in doing so, you have earned something rare. Trust, perhaps even friendship. Perhaps more." Eli's heart pounded. The moment was fragile, delicate, like the crown itself. Yet it was real. He understood that humans, in their own quiet way, could bridge gaps that even the most advanced beings could not. It was not strength or longevity that mattered, it was heart, courage, and care. Their moment was interrupted by a sudden alarm from the palace's energy core. A minor system instability threatened to cascade into a larger problem. Without hesitation, Eli sprinted to the core chamber, Erlen following closely. The energy nodes pulsed dangerously, glowing erratically. "This is serious," one of the Lithariades said. "If the flow is disrupted, the crown and the city could be affected." Eli examined the panels and conduits, analyzing the flow patterns. He realized that a combination of human intuition and careful observation could resolve the issue faster than the automated systems. With steady hands, he rerouted energy, balanced the nodes, and stabilized the flow. The pulses calmed, the danger passed, and the crown's energy hummed steadily once more. Erlen watched him with admiration and something deeper in her gaze. "You have done more than protect the crown, human," she said softly. "You have protected my people. And in doing so, you have proven the true value of your species." Eli felt a quiet satisfaction. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were capable of courage, ingenuity, and heart that could make a difference even in worlds far beyond their own. He realized that this was what Erlen had been testing, not only the crown, but the ability of humans to rise above limitations, to act with care and courage when it mattered most. As the night fell and the palace quieted, Eli and Erlen stood on the balcony, overlooking the glowing city. The crown pulsed softly in the distance, a symbol of stability, leadership, and now trust. "You have passed the test, human," Erlen said quietly, "not just of skill but of heart. You have shown me that humans can matter, in ways even the Lithari sometimes fail to see." Eli felt a swell of pride and humility. This was more than recognition. It was validation of humanity itself. Fragile, adaptable, courageous, and caring, humans could shape outcomes, inspire trust, and bridge worlds. As he looked at Erlen, he realized that their bond had grown deeper than he could have imagined. Not just respect but understanding. Not just admiration, but a quiet, unspoken connection. Humans were fragile, yes, but in that fragility lay strength. A strength that could touch hearts, change perspectives, and even protect worlds. And for the first time, Eli understood that his journey on this distant planet was not merely about repair, but about proving that humanity, in its quiet courage and care, could shine brightly, even among beings far more advanced and powerful than themselves. The palace shimmered under the twin moons of Lithera, casting silver and violet light across the city. Eli stood at the balcony, watching the glow reflect off the crystalline towers. In the quiet of the night, he thought about the days he had spent repairing the crown, working beside Erlen, and learning the delicate rhythms of her world. Every challenge had tested him, not just his hands, but his courage, patience, and understanding. A soft voice behind him drew his attention. Erlen stepped onto the balcony, her robe flowing like liquid light. "The crown is stable," she said, her voice calm but filled with unspoken emotion. "Yet there are still those among the council who question a human's presence in the palace." Eli turned to face her. "Then we show them, Your Majesty. Humans may be fragile, but we can adapt, learn, and act when it matters most. That is how we matter." She smiled faintly, a soft glow in her eyes. "Yes, and you have proven it, not only through skill but through heart. Your actions have earned more than approval. You have earned trust, perhaps even something deeper." Eli felt a warmth in his chest. Humans were often underestimated in this galaxy, but his presence here had made a difference. It was not just about repairing the crown, but about showing that even a fragile species could act with courage, care, and ingenuity when it mattered most. Suddenly, the palace's warning systems flared. A hidden sabotage attempt had been detected in the energy conduits feeding the crown. Some members of the council, resentful of the human's presence, had tampered with the system, hoping to discredit him. Eli's eyes widened, but his mind sharpened instantly. This was the moment to act, not as a human outsider, but as a problem solver, a protector, and a bridge between worlds. He dashed toward the energy chamber, Erlen close behind him. The conduits pulsed erratically, threatening to destabilize the crown's delicate energy lattice. "Quickly, human," Erlen said. "The crown? It cannot fail." Eli's hands moved with practiced precision. He analyzed the flow patterns, rerouted energy channels, and stabilized nodes with careful adjustments. The crown's glow pulsed, responding to his touch. Every action required focus, creativity, and calm, qualities humans often possessed when under pressure. "Watch the primary node," Eli called. "It's about to overload." Erlen extended her hand, and energy from the crown flowed through her fingertips, stabilizing one of the filaments. Together, human and queen worked in harmony. The crown hummed, brightening steadily. Finally, the last unstable conduit stabilized, and the palace systems returned to normal. The chamber fell silent. Eli exhaled deeply, wiping sweat from his brow. Erlen stepped closer, her eyes glowing softly. "You did it, human," she said quietly. "You saved the crown, and perhaps even the trust of your people in this world." Eli nodded, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Humans were often underestimated, but here he had shown that courage, ingenuity, and empathy could overcome even the most complex challenges. He had acted not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do, and that made all the difference. In the aftermath, the council convened. The Lithari who had attempted sabotage were reprimanded, and Eli's actions were acknowledged formally. The queen praised his skill, his bravery, and the quiet strength of his heart. The room, once tense with politics, now held admiration, not just for his work, but for what humanity could bring to the galaxy: resilience, creativity, and heart. After the council meeting, Erlen invited Eli to the throne room. The crown glowed gently above her head, perfectly stable, its energy flowing in harmony with her presence. She motioned for him to come closer. "You have done more than repair a crown, Eli," she said softly. "You have shown me the value of a human's courage and care. And you have shown my people that we can learn from other worlds, from other beings, and even from fragile creatures with steady hearts." Eli knelt briefly, then stood. "I only did what I could, Your Majesty. Humans are fragile, yes, but we are capable of courage, of empathy, and of connection. That is how we make a difference." Erilyn approached, her gaze locking with his. The crown shimmered above, but for a moment it seemed to pale beside the connection between them. "You have earned more than trust," she whispered. "Perhaps even a bond that bridges worlds, hearts, and understanding." Eli felt a shiver of both awe and joy. This was no longer a matter of duty or skill. It was something profoundly personal. He realized that humans, despite their fragility, could touch lives and hearts in ways that even advanced civilizations sometimes overlooked. They stepped onto the balcony together, overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons reflected in the crystalline towers, casting silver and violet light across the palace. Eli realized that the world he had entered was vast, complex, and beautiful, but it was also a place where a human heart could matter. "Do you remember the question you asked me?" Eli said softly, recalling the whisper from days before. Erilyn nodded, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Yes, do you love me, human?" Eli swallowed, feeling the weight and beauty of her words. He had spent days learning, working, and proving his worth. Yet this question cut through all of that. It was simple, intimate, and profound. "I care for you," he said finally, "more than I can explain. You have shown me courage, wisdom, and trust, and I feel a connection I cannot ignore." Erilyn smiled softly, a warmth that seemed to shine brighter than the crown itself. "That was enough for now," she said. "Understanding will come with time. But know this, your presence here has changed more than a crown. It has changed hearts, mine included." For a long moment they stood in silence, the city below shimmering with quiet life. Eli realized that this was more than a victory over technology or politics. It was a victory of connection, courage, and understanding. Humans, fragile as they were, had a power that could inspire, protect, and bridge worlds. Days passed, and life in the palace settled into a new rhythm. Eli continued his work, observing Erilyn, learning from her decisions and sharing insights from his own perspective. Their bond deepened quietly, strengthened by trust, respect, and the knowledge that they had faced challenges together. One evening, as the sun set in golden and violet hues, Erilyn approached Eli in the throne room. "You have done more than repair a crown or solve problems," she said. "You have shown that humanity can matter, here, now, and perhaps in ways we never imagined. And in doing so, you have become part of this world." Eli felt a swell of pride and humility. Humans were fragile, yes, but they could make a difference. They could inspire trust, act with courage, and touch hearts, even those of beings far more advanced and powerful. I'm honored, Your Majesty," he said softly. "I never imagined that a human could have such a place here. But I will do my best to honor it every day." Erilyn reached out and lightly touched his hand. The energy from the crown pulsed gently, as if acknowledging their bond. "And you have already done so," she whispered. "Perhaps more than you realize." Eli's heart swelled with warmth. Fragile as humans might be, they could inspire, protect, and connect in ways even advanced civilizations sometimes failed to understand. He realized that his journey had begun with a crown, but it had grown into something far greater, a bond that crossed species, worlds, and hearts as the twin moons rose higher, casting silver and violet light over the palace. Eli and Erilyn stood together on the balcony. The crown pulsed gently, a symbol of leadership, stability, and now trust. But beyond that, it symbolized connection, the bridge between human courage and Lithari wisdom, between two beings willing to see beyond difference and recognize the value of heart. Eli turned to Erilyn, his voice quiet but steady. "I may be human, fragile in body and short-lived compared to you, but I have learned something here. We can matter, we can make a difference, and perhaps we can even love." Erilyn smiled, her eyes reflecting the moonlight and the crown's gentle glow. "Yes, human," she whispered. "Perhaps we can. And perhaps we already do." For a moment, the universe seemed to pause, holding its breath. Two beings from different worlds, different lifespans, and different experiences stood together. The city below shimmered with quiet life, The crown pulsed softly above, and the night sky stretched endlessly above them. In that moment, Eli realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not in power, longevity, or speed. It was in courage, care, empathy, and connection. And in this distant palace, on a world of crystal towers and twin moons, humanity had proven that it could shine, not just as observers, but as participants in a story far larger than any one individual. And as Erlen gently smiled at him, the crown perfectly restored, Eli felt a quiet certainty settle in his chest. This was more than repair, more than duty, more than survival. This was connection. This was trust. This was unity beyond worlds. And for the first time in his life, Eli understood that humans, fragile though they might be, could change the course of destinies and hearts.